The supernatural world is real. It surrounds us. Sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. Very special guest today, Troy Brewer, joins us, and he had an encounter a while back, not too long ago, and it's an honor to have him on the show. He's going to be talking about that. However, first, a word from our very trusted sponsor. A popular looks maxing streamer said Gavin Newsom would beat J.D. Vance in the 2028 election because Vance was overweight and Gavin is better looking. But then J.D. Vance showed up to a recent interview looking completely transformed just weeks of the comment. Everyone's pointing to GLP-1 type drugs, the same type of weight loss drugs that 31 million Americans are on. But here's the thing, you don't need a prescription or a needle to get those results. Folks, this is why I love this particular GLP-1 supplement. Instead of a pharmaceutical override, it uses plant-based, clinically studied ingredients like metabolate to help my body naturally boost its own hunger-controlling signals. I get the same fullness and fewer cravings without the prescriptions, needles, or the growing list of side effects that are making headlines. It supports my weight management while protecting my metabolism, so I can keep the results for good. To kick off spring, get 51% off only at healthwithla.com. Every order comes with a free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, free express shipping with subscriptions. Once again, healthwithla.com. Folks, I take it every day, and guess what? My love handles are diminishing. Once again, healthwithla.com, healthwithla.com. Our new feature, we've got Rachel Tolson, who does all of our social media, does a great job. These are 1-minute clips. They kind of whet your appetite for where we're going to go. Not necessarily with what we're going to talk about today, but it's just a great overview. And Rachel does a bang-up job. Here's the clip. This video is for entertainment purposes only. So recently, there's been this whole scuttlebutt, and I actually did a show on this, about a dog man incident in Oklahoma. So the details are very sketchy, so what else is new? I will tell you this, shape-shifting is real. First Nation people, medicine men, I've talked to them. I've talked to Chief Joseph Riverwind. I talked to Jimmy City. I've talked to other First Nation people. It is a reality. They take on the power, the dark power, and they can shapeshift into another being. Usually it's a dog man, but it can be also a crow. You know, it's interesting that the remake of A Lone Ranger took something which in my childhood was sacrosanct and completely trashed it in every way possible. Because that's what they do. That's what they do. They don't like things that are wholesome and good. In fact, if I use those words, some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. I am L.A. Marzulli. So I'm interviewing Troy Brewer. He comes on the record today. Troy, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm on. It's great to see you, L.A.
Oh, the honor is all mine for having you do this. You know, you're a pastor. Your niche, I would say one of your niches anyway, is the whole child trafficking thing. And this is a hot button topic. I mean, even talking about it can get you strikes and banned and everything else. But we see reports from newspapers all over America where the police will go in, they'll call an operation, whatever, and they'll rescue 20, 30, 80 children, and they'll arrest 20, 30. So this is an ongoing problem. It's real. I think if the American people knew the scope of it, they would be appalled. I don't really want to touch on that so much, but that is a big part of your ministry. And I mean, I think it's every parent's fear to, send their kid off to school and they don't come back. Just give us a quick overview of that, and we'll continue.
Well, the answer is Jesus, as you very well know. The answer is for the body of Christ to step up. And the governments of the world are not going to solve this. Hollywood is not going to solve it. The Ivy League schools is not going to solve it. Islam is not going to solve it. We have to be engaged when we have to do this. We can't ignore it any longer. It has come to all of us now. And Leanna and I have been doing this for 30 years.
Wow.
Well, this is our 30th year of rescuing kids. We've rescued over 12,400 out of trafficking, and we've rescued many more than that, but 12,400 specifically out of trafficking. We rescued 908 last year, LA. And this year we're on target to even reach more than 1,000 to actually, but it's one thing, man, to rescue them. It's another thing to raise them
Yeah.
and grow them up to be model citizens, to see them saved in every way that they can be saved. And that's what we're dedicated to. So thank you for that.
Before we get into today's subject, I just want to, anybody who goes through anything, any type of trauma like that, I mean, you're looking at major, major PTSD, and this doesn't heal, in a day or a week or a year. That person will carry that hurt the rest of their lives. Only Jesus can bring peace to a soul that has been violated and traumatized. I mean, the late Russ Dizdar used to talk about this all the time, and I don't want to get into that because it's a hot button. YouTube, unfortunately, you can't. We have no free speech in this country. We have it to a point, but certain topics, whoa, but it's not conspiracy theory. Just speak to the idea of what I would call trauma-based mind control.
Well, when it comes to trauma-based mind control, that is a very real deal, and it is something else. Now that I've said that, let me say this: what Jesus offers us is the mind of Christ, and it trumps it. And so, that's why I say it's so important that we actually get these kids and raise these kids once they are actually rescued, because their mind has to be completely renewed. Their minds have been fragmented, their souls have been fragmented, and that's for all kinds of nefarious reasons that we talk about some other time. But it is spiritual, it is supernatural, and it's literally mind hacking, is what it is. But you can have your mind renewed. So we produce our kids like in Uganda. The very first indigenous heart surgeon is a child that we rescued when he was 7, and he's approaching 30 years old right now. A little girl that we rescued in the Amazon. She is actually a big time Nike executive here in the United States. They all become rescuers themselves in one way or another. They enter into whatever the 7 mountains, or they go into the corporate fields, but they rescue in those places as well. You can only do that if you got a new mind, not just a Band-Aid over a messed up mind.
All I can say, I remember sitting with Russ Dizdar at the very first. We spoke at 90 conferences together, and then he passed away. Yeah, we were battle buddies, and Russ talked about the underground, what was already there, and I talked about what was coming. So we were looking at the same phenomena from two different vantage points. And I remember just sitting there with my jaw on the ground, because most people in the churches have no idea what's going on. And I really appreciate what you do and the fact that the Lord has called you to do what you do. This is the deep end of the pool, certainly not for the faint of heart. And I don't think I could do it, Troy. I really don't.
I tell you, man, you know what you could do that you already do is you would just be so blown away with the transformation and the hope that comes from seeing these kids transformed. And that's really where we focus at. Yes, we're involved in, we have teams, we have boots on the ground in 54 different rescue homes and
Wow.
in 16 different nations right now. We have over 6,800 kids under our care at this very moment that we're completely raising. And what's real is we just refuse to be impressed with how dark it is. Once you get in, you go, okay, there comes a place for you to go. Okay, I got to have hope. I've got to know that there's an answer. There has to be a solution. There has to be something I can do. And we know what that is. As we're just like, yeah, man, I'm just not going to be impressed with it. Like there's sometimes I have to repent and just go, okay, I'm being too impressed with that, because it just staggers you. But there's other times, most of the other time I go, no, that little girl was nonverbal, and now she speaks, and now she leads worship within a church.
Wow.
That little boy was traumatized to such a degree that he was completely feral. Now he is literally a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon. We also have a brain surgeon of one of our kids that we actually rescued, who's all grown up now. So I love the transformation side of it. I love the fact that you can jump in and you can take on hell with a water pistol and just go, yeah, this thing is a mess, but what's real is I'm also a mess, and I'm redeemed, and I'm coming after this thing, and I'm not going to be nice about it. And I like that.
Wow. That's just wow. How do people get to your ministry? I mean, folks, out of all the worthwhile causes. I mean, not everyone's called to do what Troy and his wife do. I mean, I understand that. Great. I'm not called to that. I'm called to do what I do here, but I can give to it. I can, you know, $20 a month, $100 a month, whatever it is. I mean, there's thousands of people watching this thing. Troy, how can we sow into your ministry? How can we give?
Thank you. Thanks, man. Well, there's two different ways. You can go to Troy. If you just look at my name, Troy Brewer, you'll come across troybrewer.com. And that's the easiest place to get started. Our big international effort that doesn't have my name attached to it is called Answer International. And if you look up Answer International as well, it's Troy Brewer Ministries and Answer International. So it's pretty easy.
Now we're going to kind of go into my wheelhouse here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. So you're down in Mexico. I've been down to Mexico several times. This is a very weird, strange place. I understand. So Mauritania is the goddess of death, and she's celebrated like nobody's business. The cartels, in my opinion, rule Mexico. They have never been broken. They continue to ply their ridiculous trade, decade after decade. They grow more violent. Gateways are open, portals are open, which have never been closed. And this is before, the Columbus and all this other stuff. This is the status quo. I remember being invited to Chichen Itza, where over 50,000 people were ritualistically slaughtered. Russ Dizdar again and I were supposed to go down there. We didn't. The Lord called it off at the last minute. Thank God he did. Frankly, I mean, and I've also been to Tiwanaku and Teotihuacan, I should say, Teotihuacan, the huge pyramid right outside Mexico City. And that pyramid is bigger than the Pyramid of Giza. And no one knows who built it. They call them, we call them the Teotihuacanos, but they just seem to have vanished. And maybe because of climate change, they just make stuff up. So you had an encounter with something, and you're not the first person who's talked about this. There was another gentleman who had the almost identical, looking out at the mountain, and all of a sudden something appears there. Tell us what happened.
Well, down in the most southern part of Mexico on the Guatemala border, we do a work down there. And Chiapas, Mexico, if you fly down to Tuxtla and then take the 4-hour drive south through San Cristobal and then head towards the border, we have in a place called, there is the largest in Chiapas, Mexico. They have the largest Mayan pyramid in the world, and it got privately owned, LA. It's privately owned. Oh. Yeah. So there's a whole thing with that. We've actually been to it. It's the people that own it. We're friends with them. They are cartel related. We go and we actually, you understand, everybody needs to understand this whole trafficking thing is so religious. It is extreme religious. And as they become more and more violent, they also become more and more religious. I mean, the children that we rescue, if we rescue them in an altar room, they are literally chained to idols, while everything is taking place. And so this is a big part of this thing. So in the shadow of the largest Mayan pyramid on the planet Earth, we have a ranch down there, and we rescue kids there. And so there was a day where we were doing that, and we've been out on rescues. We had teams of people down there, and I'm just the guy that goes around and hugs everybody, and I'm the guy that makes sure that everything is coordinated. And these local pastors and this apostolic group, they all got together and they said, "Hey, we want to pray for you. What you're doing is a big deal, and we want to pray for it." So yeah, so I'm thinking, me being a typical American, I'm thinking, hey, a nice polite prayer. We'll get together, we'll bow our heads, and it'll be prayed. No, that's not how it works. Not at all. And these mountains are absolutely amazing. They're 18,000 feet tall. You compare that to the Rocky Mountains that are 14,000 feet tall. When I say it's mountainous, it's something else. Wow. Well, they take me to this one spot that they have where they go to pray, and they own the territory, where they literally own the land. And that's also important. And we go there and we're sitting there. They sit me in a chair, and these 20, 30 some odd people gather together, and one by one they pray for me. And it is, without exaggerating, almost an all-day event where you sit in a chair, and if you don't speak the language, there's really not much to do but just say, "Yes, Lord." And from all, they all lay hands on you and they pray for you one after another after another. And so I like to draw, and I carry a journal with me everywhere. And so I thought, well, there's nothing to do. They've been praying for me for a couple of hours. And we're outside. There's mountain ridges everywhere. It's so beautiful. And I thought, I'm going to draw that mountain ridge right up there. And so I started mapping it out. I yelled at my son, who was there, and I had several of my executive team was there. And I was like, hey, well, they weren't listening. They were off talking. And so I was like, bring me my journal so I can draw. And I'm looking at this one bald ridge, and there's one single tree, LA, on this bald ridge that's just beautiful. It has stuck out to me. So I thought, well, I'll spend the next hour or so doing it. I'm just going to draw this thing. So I start mapping out in my mind how I'll draw it, the rocks that are around it, what kind of scenery, if anything, am I going to put behind it? What's in the foreground? So I'm really looking at this thing. I'm inspecting it. And so I yelled at my son. He came over. I said, go give me my journal. I'm going to draw that tree up there. And he said, okay. So he goes to the truck to go get it. While I'm there, I look back up, and instead of there being one tree, there's two trees standing there. This really struck me because I had mapped it out already in my mind exactly how I was going to approach this pencil drawing. And I'm looking at it and I go, I know for a fact that there was only one tree there. How did I miss this other tree? And as I'm pondering and as I'm looking at it, I'm staring at it, and I thought, what about this other tree looks identical to this one tree? I mean, you cannot tell the difference. And I was like, I can't believe I'm just trying to figure that out. And then all of a sudden, and again, people are praying for me. So there's all these people, and they're praying, they're passionately praying. I'm praying Psalms 91 protection over us, or they're declaring all I say it every night. Yeah, right on. And so I just sitting there and I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden, this thing gets blurry. It lost its, for just a split second, it was not a sharp image. It became a kind of a fuzzy image, and two arms and two legs came out of it. It turned into something humanoid as I was looking at this thing, and it took a couple of steps over and it repositioned itself, and then it instantly looked exactly like a tree again. And I had no grid for this. I was like, okay, I'd never seen anything like that, right? Or I had never experienced anything like that before. And it kind of took my breath away. And I was like, okay. So I'm staring at it, and I continue to stare at it. And once again, it takes on a humanoid form. It repositions itself again, and it leaned way in, and it kind of cocked its ear. And it was as if it was listening to the prayer that these people were praying for us.
Yeah, there you go.
Were praying for me and my team. And it's pretty far away. I have a big ranch out in West Texas, and we have an 800-yard target range. And this thing was probably about 700, 800 yards away, is what I'd guess. And I was like, what in the heck? And I'm like, this thing is listening. And then it turned back into a tree. And I continue to watch. I continue to listen. And then this time it turned into this giant. And Ellie, this was truly a giant. This is not an 8-footer. It's not a 10-footer. This thing is way bigger than that, brother. And I'm talking like 20 to 30 feet tall. And I'm looking at it. It repositioned. It walked around, and it made several strides around behind the tree, and it went to the other side. And it was further apart this time than it was from the other one. And it was listening. It was leaning in, and I could tell that this thing was listening. And so I thought, well, if it can hear this prayer that these cats are praying for me, then it can hear me somehow. And I'm staring it down, and I think up until this second, it was not aware that I could see it. And I said, I see you. And when I said, I see you, it stopped it. He just got real frozen. And he was like, you talking to me type thing. And I told him, I said, I don't know what you got away with down here, but there's a new sheriff in town. And they're bringing teams of kids. We're bringing teams of people down here. We're going to rescue so many kids. I rebuke you in the mighty name of Jesus. I'm here on sacred space. You got no business listening to this prayer. This is none of your business. And when I started speaking to him and telling this thing that it was no longer going to get away with what it's doing to children, it changed, and it became very aggressive. It started rocking back and forth like this. And it became very, very aggressive. It put his hands on his knees first, and it put his shoulders up, and it rocked back and forth like this. And then it became angry. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's making all these terrible gestures, and it's scary looking. And it's telling me, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to whack you guys out. It became extremely violent looking. Yes, sir. And it was at about that point. And again, people had their hands on my shoulders.
everybody's praying around me. And when I'm talking to it, I'm talking about this tone of voice. I'm like, I see you, and you're not going to get away with this thing anymore. I declare it in the name of Jesus. We're going to rescue every kid down here. We're going to shut you down. We have a right to be here. These people are indigenous. This is sacred space. We're saying all those things. And this thing starts throwing a fit. My son comes over and he brings the journal. And I said, Ben, turn around and tell me what you see up there on top of that ridge. And he's like, where? And I said, right up there, turn around and look. And my son turned around, he looks up there at it. He said, Dad, that's a freaking giant. I said, yeah, it is. And he goes, whoa. And I told him, I said, watch this. I said, you see this? This is my son. We have generations here. We rescue kids. The Lord himself has sent us here, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it started throwing a walleye fit. My son is watching this now. He's 34 years old. And he's got his hand on my shoulder like, whoa. So Jerry Sellers, who's an executive pastor, he's a little bit of ways from his head. He's kind of, I can see that he's looking at us. Like, what are you guys looking at? I said, Jerry, come here. And so again, all of these people are praying. They're completely oblivious that we're looking at this thing. Jerry comes over. I said, Jerry, just chill out, man. But you're not going to believe what it is I'm looking at. I said, turn around and tell me what you see up there. And he turns around and he looks and he yelled, it's a freaking giant. And when he did, the people stopped praying and they look at him and they looked back up towards the hill. And whenever that happened, this thing stood up and it turned around. It made 3 strides. And as it was going over the edge of the ridge, as it turned to go, and it was like going fast now. It was just 3 quick strides and it was completely gone. It was like tree, giant tree, giant tree, giant, and then it was gone. So yeah, I mean, people that are praying for me, I asked them, they're like, what's going on? Because we were all excited, bro.
Right.
And I told them, I said, guys, watch this. I said, guys, do y'all know anything about a giant in this part of the world? Which there are giant footprints there everywhere, even in the hotel that we were staying at. It's got a giant stone that has a giant footprint in it. It's part of the floor structure there. On the pyramid that I was telling you about, which we went on the pyramid, there are giant footprints in the stone on the actual pyramid itself. And I said, guys, y'all know anything about a giant out here? And they all told me as pastors, yeah, there's one that lives on top of that ridge.
Oh, no. Oh, wow. It's interesting. Have you ever heard of Judicola? And
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah. I mean, it's the same point.
Where did this happen?
I believe it's either North Carolina or South Carolina. I think it's North Carolina. I'm almost positive. I mean, I could look it up, but Judicola was a giant. North Carolina. There's a big rock with allegedly his handprint. I was there and we filmed there, and very, very interesting. But the same thing, the legend of Judicola the giant. We keep hearing all this stuff. Yeah, but I mean, for you to actually see one, and your son, and then a friend of yours, and then everybody else, they're all looking at this thing. I've never heard that before. I mean, that's really unbelievable. So let me ask you something. In your opinion, is the veil thinning?
Yes. Yes, the veil is thinning very much. I think the closer and closer that we get to the end, more and more and more, even among all the nations, that the feet of the nations will be mixed between clay and iron. These are the days of Noah. This is very much, the whole Nephilim thing, the whole seaboard thing.
Yeah.
And they've been around. We all know that they've been around when they were around before the flood and after the flood. But now they have so many people that actively work with them on so many different levels of governments throughout the world. In LA, this is what it was actually in rescuing children that sent me down the rabbit hole, because I would rescue a child in Nepal that would say the same exact thing that a child in Mexico would say, that would say the same exact thing that a child in South America would say, that the same exact thing that a child in Africa would say. And we started coming across kids that were blonde-headed, blue-eyed kids all over the world that were from South Africa, that their name began with L, E-L, And that was the first indication to me, like, where did you come from? And why are you doing here? Why are you in Uganda? Why are you in Tanzania? What is all this? And this is, again, we've been doing this for 30 years, and 25 years ago, before Al Gore gave us the internet, thank God for him, we had no way to we had no understanding whatsoever. But now, with guys who have forged the way for us, like what you have, and so many others as well. I mean, this thing is becoming more and more and more common knowledge among people who are actually actively engaged in these things.
In my opinion, we are in the last of the last days. Well, we really are. And can you imagine if the Christian church is removed, if believers are removed, and these guys are given the go? A 20, 25 footer shows up at your village, it's toast.
Yeah.
And as from what I understand, not only do they run at super speed, we know that from our film on the Kandahar one, but they can pop in and pop out. So they could be here, they can pop out, and then reappear over here. And we've heard that from multiple witnesses. So
I think so too.
the question is, are these the beasts of the earth? And I think they are.
Yeah, they are the beast. Yeah, that's exactly right. Even the term the mark of the beast speaks of something Nephilim. So whenever you see biblically the feet, and we know that, I think there's a certain percentage in the book of Revelation that the beasts kill the people of the earth.
Yeah.
In the book of Revelation during the tribulation, and that's not dogs attacking people.
Yeah.
That's hybrid mixed, is what that is. Which I actually believe that's what the mark of the beast does, is it turns you into something hybrid.
And I agree.
It changes you on a DNA level where you are no longer redeemable as the son of Adam. You're no longer redeemable.
So I completely concur with that. I actually wrote about this in the Cosmic Chess Match and also Counter Move, because you take that mark, you're no longer human. You wind up in the lake of fire. There's no grace and mercy. And the only times we see in the entire Bible where there's no grace and mercy, where the Nephilim are present, where the Nephilim are, that's it. I mean, boom, because you're no longer human. I agree. I mean, it's changing the DNA. The late Russ Dinsdar, I keep mentioning him because he was in your wheelhouse for sure. You guys would have been best buds. But the late Russ Dinsdar said, the Therion, the beasts of the earth, these are not hamsters and giraffes. And he's right. They are not hamsters and giraffes. That what you saw, in my opinion, and that's really a gift in some ways. Not that I go looking for this stuff. I don't go looking for anything like this. I mean, I just don't. I'm not looking for Bigfoot. I'm not looking for UFOs. I'm not looking for any of that. Yeah, I just nose to the grindstone. And then, we're down in the Var Beach, and it's 9:00 at night. We're out there in the deck with Karen Wilkinson and the author of Stolen Seed, Evil Harness, an abductee, was pregnant by her 3 times. And, those people who have come out of that paradigm, that experience, know when the saucers are close. And she was very easy. She said, yeah, they're here. And then she goes, look, like that. And if you'd blink, you would have missed it. The sky was dark and gray. The disc was not like this. The disc was like this, up on end. And it went from here, like this, probably 50 miles. Like you could track it, but like that. Just the way I just showed you. So that's how it was. Just like that. And it was gone. I'm going like that's about 4th one I've seen. And we weren't looking for anything. I have no desire to see one, absolutely none. And the Lord knows that. I go looking for it. But, this thing is heating up in ways that I've never seen. And that's why, your report is so important, because the church is asleep. They don't, much of the church doesn't believe in anything supernatural. They wouldn't know what to do if an entity showed up and started banging on the door on a Sunday morning, which is really unfortunate. But we have the power. Let me just end with this, and I'll let you close this out. Because we believe in Yeshua, Jesus, we have power, not our own power, it's his power. And I have seen him when I have said, Lord, please release your angels. And all of a sudden, not the slow thing. In other words, when he engages, when he shows up, it's just like Jesus calming the storm. Be still, be calm. Boom! The whole thing just stops. Lazarus, come out. He's not yelling and screaming, not, trying to work up something. Lazarus, come out. And Lazarus comes out, water to wine, first miracle. He's not sweating it because he's God. When we call on him and he shows up, everything changes. Your thoughts?
Whenever I saw this thing, there was something about it that you do want to take your eyes off of it. There's something awe about them. There's something beautiful about them, even though they are monstrous. And again, we as human beings are tempted to be fascinated with things that are evil. Yeah, and I just refuse to be. That's why I don't go looking for it either. I got no interest in any of that trash. So I'm looking for the kingdom, man. David, and I know the power of Jesus. And again, we've seen with our over 12,000 kids, we've seen nonverbal kids. We've seen kids, LA, that would have 5 venereal diseases, including AIDS. We're talking about documented 5, or 12-year-old child with 5 different diseases, and within a year, go back to the doctor and they can't find a trace AML. And man, that's the power of Jesus. Putting you to be afraid of this junk, and I'm not going to be fascinated with it, and I'm not going to be blown away with it. I'm just going to go, well, Jesus is still alive. He's still resurrected. Because you're in a heap of trouble. That's exactly right. And I'm here to do his work. This is not my idea. It's his idea. So just like, the angel of the Lord showed up to Lucifer in the book of Jude and said, the Lord rebuke you. I don't know what else to tell you other than that. He sent me here to do this thing. And I don't have to bring a railing accusation and all kinds of madness. I'm just not going to be freaked out. I'm just not going to. And, Jesus is the way. He's the truth. He's the life. And in these last days, he's coming back soon. I promise you, that is real. And I'm looking forward to the day, man. He's coming back soon. I'm promising.
That's why I'm right there with you. I'm not a date center, but more than likely next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
My last question to you, do you think this was a Nephilim or a fallen angel?
Well, that is a great question because we've all discussed that. The guy who owns the pyramid says, this is what he said. He told me, he goes, Tori, you need to be careful going around praying and talking Jesus here because you'll make these guys mad. And I said, really? He said, tell me about that. He said that when he was a little boy, that his grandfather brought the Catholic priest up on top of that place, and he busted out his smoke on the rope and did his ritual and did his thing, right? And he said the stars came down. He said the stars came down, and he said they were in star form. They turned into human form, and they threatened him and said, you ever do this again, we'll kill you. That was not Nephilim, whatever that thing.
Yeah, that's that. What is he, Joel?
That is a fallen angel. This thing, though, it definitely had some kind of, it definitely had true physicality. This was not a proof. This thing had physicality, which makes me lean more towards Nephilim.
Yeah, I think that too.
So in a lot of secular Christians, they just think everything is a poof, and they think there's only angels and demons. They don't give account for the myriad of species that exist above the fallen and the holy realm. They don't give any account of that. And some of these things, not only do they already have physicality, like the sons of God or something like that, that they can actually crossbreed in our DNA actually marriages.
Right.
But others, whenever they breed, they are supernatural beings that have physicality. And I don't know, man.
It's complex. No, it's complex. And I remember talking to Chuck Missler, the late Chuck Missler, who was a mentor. Just years ago. And I said, Chuck, what about the abduction phenomenon? People were taking women are pregnant. He goes, yeah, Satan's out number 2 to 1. He's building an army. That's exactly what we're looking at.
He was right on.
No, totally. Troy Brewer, thanks so much for coming on the record. Tell us one more time how people can locate you. And folks, I'm going to talk to Peggy about sewing into this ministry. Even if it's $20 a month, right? You're helping keeping this, you might be helping rescuing a child. That's what this is about. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm pledging this. I don't know what we're going to give you, but we're definitely going to give you something, maybe $100, maybe $200 a month, whatever, something, because this is awesome. I'm never going to, more than likely at 75 years old, I'm not going to be part of your ministry because we have this whole thing here, but you never know where our paths may cross. In the meantime, I could support what you do. Folks, think about that. Troy, tell us how to get a hold of you one more time, please.
Well, you just go to troybrewer.com, and I got great news. We rescued 6 kids last week in 1 week, 6 kids. We had a banner week last week, and that's not so much banner anymore. That's actually becoming the new norm. And Any little bit that you guys want to do will help us, because not only do we got to rescue these kids, we got to raise them. And that, my friend, is a money pit. But nonetheless, what a great privilege, man, to be with you today. I really has all done. I've forwarded this for a long time. But here I am in Tokyo. I'm actually in Tokyo. And I know heads up, holy hope, right? It's crazy. Yeah, they're crazy.
What a world. What a world.
God bless you, my friend.
God bless you, Troy. Really appreciate you coming on. That's it for today, folks. Don't go anywhere. Watch this trailer. It's on the waiting room. I think you'll find it interesting. We'll be back again tomorrow with another show. Thanks for your support, and consider supporting Troy and his ministry. It's well worth your time and dollars. God bless you all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Death comes for us all. Today, it came for Bob.
This is your life, Mr. Frisbee. You can call me Mr. O. Time does not exist here. We will go through every person you have ever wronged and everyone who has wronged you.
I can't forgive him!
Bob, come down here.
Aunt Mary?
You cannot enter heaven with hatred in your heart.
Take my hand, Bob. We'll go together. Are you escaping, Bob?
Stay back!
Bob Frisbee must face every sin of his past. Will he find forgiveness in his heart or surrender to the darkness? Find out in the brand new novel by L.A. Marzulli, The Waiting Room.